Ashe, and welcome to another special episode of our Mandatory Mental Liberation Message series, written and produced by our esteemed elder Baba Jelani Bomani Dembe, the brilliant founder of Majestic Mind Matters University. I'm your royal narrator, Queen Magical Melanin, for this new episode. The necessity of the Mandatory Mental Liberation series at Majestic Mind Matters University lies in our focus on serving our Melanin Rich Culture nation. By addressing the importance of knowledge of self to produce greater self-awareness and advocating for our mental liberation, especially for our precious Melanin Rich Culture children, our messages aim to combat the enduring effects of generational mental enslavement stemming from the historical trauma of the chattel enslavement of the ancestors. Our initiative seeks to empower us to break free from these harmful and unfavorable legacies and cultivate a deep-rooted sense of self-identity and unwavering resilience. Each moment you spend with us is a gift, a chance to grow, to learn, to be inspired. So stay with us till the end, where the real magic happens. Now, let's get started with this very special Melanin Rich Culture message titled, Why Melanin Rich Culture People Must Oppose Affirmative Action Despite the Legacy of Oppression. In our collective pursuit of equality and justice, we carry the weight of generations that have experienced the agonies of systemic oppression and social injustice. As melanin-rich individuals from a civilization whose roots extend deep into the fabric of history, our awareness grows around the implications of policies such as affirmative action and legacy admissions. We understand that while legacy admissions are often seen as a means to maintain networks of privilege, they serve as a constant reminder of the systemic barriers that we face. The injustices we endured under chattel slavery and through mass incarceration are not distant specters of history. They resonate profoundly in our present-day realities. We recognize that affirmative action, born from the need to rectify historical injustices, paradoxically operates within a space that can perpetuate racial divides when not carefully scrutinized. We grapple with the fact that many white individuals who have been historically categorized as oppressors stand to benefit from policies designed to foster inclusion. We must ask ourselves, should white individuals oppose affirmative action when their own gain is intrinsically tied to the legacy admissions that benefit them within prestigious institutions such as Harvard, Yale, and Stanford? In our collective consciousness, there is an urgent need for reclamation, the act of embracing our rich cultural heritage and acknowledging both our struggles and triumphs. This reclamation is crucial for the mental liberation of our children, who must be taught to navigate a world that continues to deliver systemic injustice. Our media representation, as seen in the works of creators like Jordan Peele and Little Marvin, powerfully illustrates the psychological ramifications of social injustices. Their films unravel the narratives of trauma, fear, and resilience that emerge from the historical and ongoing oppression we face. These stories compel us to confront the reality of our existence and to strive for a world where our melanin-rich culture can thrive. As we unite globally, we recognize the significance of supporting one another within our community. We celebrate the strength of our women, those who have borne the weight of our collective pain and have often stood resolutely in opposition to systemic challenges. Their struggles have not gone unacknowledged, and we must honor them accordingly. Simultaneously, we recognize the men within our community who have risen to protect our families, our children, and our elders, standing firm against the societal forces of disenfranchisement. The ongoing impact of systemic racism, as evidenced by phenomena such as mass incarceration, cannot be overlooked. The modern version of chattel slavery, a paradigm that was intended to subjugate our ancestors, now takes the form of laws and regulations that disproportionately target our communities. We understand that Stockholm Syndrome can take root when individuals from our community internalize the oppressor's narrative, leading to detrimental effects on our mental health and collective self-image. Terms historically employed by colonizers, phrases like Black people, people of color, and African American, serve to divide us further and obscure our shared history. Discontentment arises within our communities as we find ourselves increasingly resistant to symbolic gestures devoid of substance, particularly in the political arena. The time has come for us to demand tangible results, the realignment of political and economic power back into our hands. The illusion of inclusion should no longer hold sway over our actions, particularly because we lack a voice in the structures that govern us. Meritorious manumission, the concept of granting privileges based on loyalty to the oppressor, still manifests in modern society, influencing the way we interact with systems of power. The Kerner Commission's findings illustrating the persistent divide between races reinforce our understanding of the systemic challenges we face. As we pave the way toward holistic healthcare, an essential need within our melanin-rich communities, we must confront the devastating impacts of being forcibly displaced from our identities. To stay woke truly embodies our collective responsibility to challenge social structures that perpetuate inequality. Our call to action encourages us to reclaim our identity, acknowledge our ancestry, and confront the challenges laid before us. By recognizing the historical context of our struggles and actively engaging in movements for justice, we honor the legacy of our ancestors while striving toward a future where we control our narratives and redefine our place in society. It is in this reclamation of self that we collectively rise, breaking the chains of systemic oppression and illuminating a path toward healing and empowerment for generations to come. Our next topic in this special Majestic Mind Matters University Mandatory Mental Liberation Message series is titled Legacy Admissions and Systemic Inequalities, a Call for Reclamation and Unity. In examining the landscape of higher education in the United States, we are confronted by a glaring contradiction. Amid cries for equity and inclusion, legacy admissions persist as a bastion of systemic inequality. While educational institutions tout their commitment to diversity, practices such as legacy admissions disproportionately benefit predominantly white populations, entrenching privilege and obstructing pathways to success for marginalized groups. We, as individuals from Melanin Rich Cultures, must unite in our efforts to reclaim our heritage, confront the oppressive structures that have long subjugated us, and promote equitable admissions practices that honor our contributions to civilization. Subtopic: The legacy system and its impact on inequality. Legacy admissions perpetuate systemic inequalities by favoring individuals whose parents or grandparents have attended prestigious institutions. This practice benefits those who are already part of the elite, reinforcing a hierarchy that disadvantages us, members of melanin-rich cultures. For instance, schools such as Harvard, Yale, and Princeton have utilized legacy preferences, thereby giving undue weight to applicants based not on merit, but on familial connections rooted in privilege. As we reflect on these policies, it becomes clear that they directly contradict the ideals of meritocracy and fairness, contributing to a landscape where educational opportunities are lockstep with one's lineage rather than one's abilities. In doing so, legacy admissions not only marginalize us, but also perpetuate the cycle of oppression. We see this in the underrepresentation of marginalized communities in these elite institutions. The systemic barriers we face are not limited to admissions. They extend into education, employment, and social mobility. As people who come from rich cultural heritages with deep historical significance, we must recognize these inequities and advocate for admissions practices that prioritize diversity and inclusion. Subtopic: A unified stand for equitable admissions practices. To forge a path toward equitable admissions processes, we must engage in collective advocacy. We can demand that educational institutions abolish legacy admissions and implement policies that prioritize socioeconomic background, personal experiences, and potential for contribution to their communities. Institutions should adopt a holistic admissions model that genuinely seeks to uplift marginalized voices, honoring our rich heritage and recognizing our potential. It is crucial that we stand against the normalization of practices that benefit the descendants of the oppressors. If white individuals, who largely benefit from legacy admissions, truly seek to champion equity, they must confront their own complicity in these systems and actively oppose policies that preserve their unearned advantages. It is essential that they recognize the moral imperative of dismantling systems that reinforce their privilege. Subtopic: Reclaiming our culture and identity. As we engage in these discussions, it is vital that we also reclaim our melanin-rich culture and heritage. Our civilization has contributed significantly to human progress, yet this history has often been sanitized or ignored. In reclaiming our knowledge of self and our roots, we honor those who have faced adversity, navigating the oppressive structures designed to marginalize us. An example of this reclamation can be found in the works of filmmakers like Jordan Peele and Little Marvin. Their films often provide profound commentary on the psychological effects of social injustice, racism, and the broader horrors of systemic oppression. Through storytelling, they illuminate the ongoing struggles we face and challenge us to confront the traumas of our past while forging a path toward liberation. In our quest for unity, we must uplift our women, who have historically borne the burden of our struggles, and honor the men who protect and support our families and communities. Our shared identity is rooted in respect and love, originating from the struggles our ancestors endured. Therefore, understanding our place in the lineage of Al-Kebulin, the motherland, calls us to embrace our original spirituality rather than conform to external religious doctrines imposed by oppressors. Subtopic: Addressing the consequences of systemic oppression. The welfare system, while designed to assist the disadvantaged, often perpetuates cycles of dependency that disempower us. Instead of fostering autonomy and dignity, it can entrap individuals within socioeconomic struggles, further disadvantaging melanin-rich populations. Our political prisoners, individuals wrongfully incarcerated for their fight against oppression, serve as reminders of the sacrifices made for liberation. In our fight for justice and recognition, we affirm that our self-worth is not defined by the oppressor's validation. Understanding our original connections to land, culture, and history is crucial in rejecting the narratives that aim to demean us based solely on skin color. By empowering ourselves through knowledge and unity, we take strides toward dismantling the oppressive systems that have long sought to divide us. We stand at a pivotal moment in our fight for equity and justice. By opposing legacy admissions and advocating for just admissions practices, we not only challenge systemic inequalities, but also honor our rich cultural heritage and reclaim our rightful place in history. Together, we must reforge alliances that transcend individual struggles, embracing our shared humanity while striving for a future where every individual, regardless of background, can thrive. Our next topic in this special Majestic Mind Matters University Mandatory Mental Liberation Message series is titled, Reclaiming Our Cultural Heritage and Identity, a Pathway to Empowerment Against Systemic Oppression. In our collective struggle against systemic oppression, the reclamation of our cultural heritage and identity is essential. As a community rooted in rich melanin-rich histories and civilizations, acknowledging and honoring our past serves as a powerful antidote to the myriad of social injustices we face today. This reclamation is not merely a nostalgic exercise, but rather an act of empowerment that can galvanize unity within our families and local communities. It is a call to action, one that demands our immediate attention and committed engagement to liberate our children mentally and spiritually. Affirmative action, a critical effort to rectify historical inequalities, often faces opposition from privileged groups. This opposition can be perplexing, particularly among white individuals who have benefited significantly from legacy admissions at prestigious institutions. Legacy admissions are an insidious form of systemic reinforcement that perpetuates privilege by favoring applicants with familial ties to alumni, thus sustaining a cycle of inequality. We must ask ourselves, why should those who partake in these privileges oppose affirmative action, a policy designed to redress the very disparities they advantageously maneuver within? As we confront this uncomfortable truth, let's recognize that the systemic oppression we endure today finds its roots in historical injustices, and white individuals can and must acknowledge their role in dismantling such systems. The adverse effects of these divisive practices are not simply abstract concepts, they manifest in the daily realities of our lives. Our community continues to reel from the remnants of chattel slavery, which has been replaced by mass incarceration, a modern-day equivalent that criminalizes our existence and perpetuates cycles of poverty and marginalization. Laws designed to suppress our rights and freedoms have been enacted under the guise of public safety, effectively imprisoning countless individuals within our ranks. Anti-Black strategies systematically dehumanize and vilify us while rendering the struggle for equality an uphill battle. Furthermore, our cultural identity is shaped by enduring traumas that include the psychological effects of Stockholm Syndrome, a phenomenon where oppressed individuals develop positive sentiments toward their oppressors. This psychological manipulation has roots that penetrate deep into our communities, leading to internalized oppression and division. The historical concept of drapetomania, the purported mental illness leading enslaved individuals to flee their bondage, serves as a chilling reminder of the lengths to which oppressors will go to maintain control. Today, we must redefine our understanding of mental health, acknowledging the historical forces that have sought to distort our identities and hinder our liberation. The terms often ascribed to us, Black, brown, or people of color, are part of a colonial lexicon that seeks to further divide and categorize us within oppressive structures. These labels obscure the shared experiences and histories that bind us as a global community. Thus, our endeavor is to reclaim our language and redefine our identities in ways that empower rather than diminish us. As we engage in this reclamation, we must honor our ancestors whose names have been hidden and whose stories have been erased. We remember the countless lives lost to systemic violence, including those who were unarmed and unjustly slain by clandestine organizations that operated in the shadows. This memorialization not only honors our past, but serves as a wellspring of inspiration for future generations. We must also acknowledge the tireless efforts of figures such as Assata Shakur and Marcus Garvey, who exemplified the relentless pursuit of freedom and empowerment for our people. Our community's struggle against racism, discrimination, and oppression is not limited to our local environments. It extends globally. As we unite to reclaim our cultural heritage, we find strength in our shared histories, enriching our understanding of both the unique challenges we face and the potential for collective resistance. Recognizing the interconnectedness of our struggles allows us to transcend borders and galvanize our efforts toward liberation on a greater scale. Ultimately, reclaiming our cultural heritage fosters resilience, empowerment, and unity. It fosters the mental liberation necessary for our children to thrive, equipping them with the knowledge of their rich histories and the strength to combat systemic oppression. As a united force, we can dismantle the structures that seek to divide us and reclaim our rightful place in the narrative of our own histories, empowering our future generations to build a world grounded in justice and truth. Our next topic in this special Majestic Mind Matters University Mandatory Mental Liberation Message series is titled, Exploring Racism, Social Injustice, and Psychological Impacts Through Recent Film Narratives. In the recent cinematic landscape, films that explore themes of racism and social injustice serve as critical reflections of the psychological impacts of historical oppression on communities rich in melanin. These narratives not only illuminate the depths of our collective trauma, but also underscore the resilience required to challenge systemic inequities. As we revisit our past through these narratives, we become endowed with the awareness necessary to foster unity in our collective fight for justice, where we stand firm in reclaiming our cultural heritage. One significant area in the contemporary discourse around social justice is the practice of legacy admissions at prestigious institutions. These schools, Harvard, Yale, Stanford, Princeton, and the University of Pennsylvania, underscore the entrenchment of privilege within educational frameworks that are supposed to promote meritocracy. By favoring applicants with familial ties, these institutions perpetuate a cycle of systemic oppression that arguably places melanin-rich individuals at a disadvantage. Hence, it becomes imperative for us, as members of Melanin Rich Cultures, to extend our collective voice against practices that simultaneously uphold systemic inequities while inhibiting access to opportunities crucial for our advancement. The conclusion topic in this special Majestic Mind Matters University Mandatory Mental Liberation Message series is titled, Why Should White People Oppose Affirmative Action When They Are the Oppressors? The answer lies in recognizing the role of social accountability and justice. The fight for equitable opportunities should transcend the paradigm of group guilt. White individuals who oppose affirmative action must critique their own privileges, especially in the context of legacy admissions. By highlighting the inequity perpetuated by their access to opportunities, an access often unearned through sheer privilege, they contribute to a more equitable dialogue about race, opportunity, and systemic justice. The existing structures favoring them stand as a testament to their role in perpetuating the very systems of oppression that we seek to dismantle. As we draw upon our rich heritage and historical cognition, we acknowledge that the psychological impacts of oppression dictate the narratives we consume and create. We have matured in an environment where symbolism and empty gestures have failed to yield significant change. Our melanin-rich communities are no longer accepting mere words or token actions in exchange for our valuable votes. Instead, we seek tangible objectives, immediate investments in mental health resources, equitable educational funding, and social services that address the trauma embedded within our historical context. For instance, the recent push for reparations reflects our insistence on reconciling the profound injustices that our ancestors faced, a call for tangible change rather than fleeting symbolic gestures. This endeavor requires a critical understanding that the mere illusion of inclusion does little to change the fundamental structures that govern our existence. As melanin-rich peoples, we must reject systems that do not represent us. We must resolve to stop trusting in an illusion when the rules are written without our input, thus fortifying the status quo of systemic oppression. For example, the concept of meritorious manumission, which historically permitted enslaved individuals to earn freedom through the demonstration of good behavior or skill, remains relevant today. This serves as an echo of how societal expectations continue to impose conditions for acceptance, perpetuating an unjust hierarchy that undermines our innate worth. The Kerner Commission of 1968 exposed the profound racial inequalities that persisted in America. It laid bare the systemic failures that segregated communities and contributed to pervasive social unrest. The Commission emphasized that, to achieve true equity, comprehensive policy changes are vital. Today, we reference its findings to remind society of the consequences of neglecting the systemic roots of our struggles. By emphasizing holistic healthcare as an essential component for melanin-rich communities, we acknowledge the psychological and physiological toll of systemic denial. Access to comprehensive healthcare services serves as a crucial step toward healing, indicating that true liberation includes reclaiming our health, both mental and physical. The loss of identity resulting from decades of oppression continues to devastate our communities. When we were stolen from our ancestral homelands, we not only lost our homes, but also our narratives, traditions, and cultural heritage. The disintegration of our identities has bound many to live in survival mode. Thus, the reclamation of our melanin-rich cultural heritage is vital for the immediate mental liberation of our precious children. We, as a united front, must leverage these cinematic narratives and our lived experiences as both shields and swords in our fight against systemic injustices. By fostering awareness and promoting unity, we can reclaim agency over our narratives and ensure that future generations inherit a world where justice prevails and our melanin-rich heritage is celebrated, not silenced. In this joint effort, we recognize that our liberation demands collective action, rooted in empathy, understanding, and the unwavering belief in our inherent worth. Together, we shall not only awaken but stay woke, forging a brighter path forward for all. I'm your royal narrator, Queen Magical Melanin. We trust that this very special message has expanded your understanding through the insights shared by our highly esteemed producer, Elder Baba Jelani Bomani Dembe, founder of Majestic Mind Matters University, in our Mandatory Mental Liberation Series special message. Remember this, it is essential to honor the ancestors. We have a unique connection to the ancestors. They endured many unwarranted struggles, preserved our melanin-rich culture, and passed down invaluable wisdom through many generations. By honoring the ancestors, we pay honorable tribute to our roots and draw great strength and much-needed inspiration from the unwavering resilience and royal legacy that has paved the way for our present and future generations. Ancestral reverence is a powerful way for us to continually uphold our own melanin-rich identity, heritage, and cultural legacy. Here is an ancient Alkebulan proverb to keep in mind. If you think you are too small to make a difference, you have not spent the night with a mosquito. Remember this as well, whenever you are in the presence of anyone, saying, "They don't see color," it actually means, "They don't see you." We acknowledge and honor The indigenous name of our glorious continent as Alkebulan, this name means Mother of Mankind. In various Alkebulan languages such as Akuyu, Swahili, and Kemet, referring to ancient Egypt and rejecting the terms Africa or African. As royal members of our Melanin Rich Culture nation, we must strive for knowledge of self for greater personal awareness. Always treat yourself kindly and seek to live a totally awesome and gloriously fulfilling Melanin Rich Culture life. The only way to do great work is to love what you do. So, like, subscribe to stay updated, and share this very special Melanin Rich Culture link with everyone that you care about and that really cares about you and all of yours as well. And thank you for listening to this enchanting special message. Stay woke. Ashe.